AITA for making my mother cry on the phone. So my mom and I, 22F, had always had a very rocky relationship because she projected herself onto me, because we were similar in some aspects, both youngest child not really having a dream job, etc. She's very narcissistic and wants everything to be about her, and just overall toxic to be around. From when I was 16, she started yelling a lot at me. I'd not had a very good relationship with her before that, but never this bad. I started being chronically online to avoid her, but this only angered her. It lasted 3 years where all she would communicate to me was either by yelling at me, punishing me for things she didn't punish my siblings for, and snarky, hateful comments. I started to see how she's ruined my life in the past by trash-talking my friends and saying they weren't good for me. And I often left friends behind because of this. After those 3 years, I finally decided I couldn't take it anymore. She was constantly being so toxic, and my siblings were older and bigger and always on her side. Father wasn't in the picture. I had become depressed and later suicidal, and cried at least 4 days a week because of her. I'd never felt so trapped. I moved out and the yelling got milder, but now, 3 years later, she is desperately trying to maintain her grasp over me. Her narcissistic personality makes her act like a puppeteer, and my siblings and I are the puppets. I started cutting the strings because I don't want to be controlled by her anymore. She doesn't like this, so she keeps trying to call every week or more. Today was the last drop. She keeps insisting to call with the urgency, as if my grandma has suddenly died and I need to come over. But then when I call, she tries to strike a casual conversation. Since I visited her halfway across the country just last week and was busy the day of the call, I tried to cut her off and ask if there was something actually important. There wasn't. So when I said I should then hang up and told her if something was up with me or my life, I'd tell her myself. Then she spoke back with a voice that sounded like she was crying. I really can't have my own wants and needs if they don't suit her. I know she's going to try and make my siblings fix it for her by telling them how horrible I was. And then they will have to tell me how horrible I am because of what I did, but I don't care anymore. It's not like they genuinely care about me. AITA for being jealous of my ex's best friend, my ex, 19F, which I will be calling Clara in this post, recently broke up with me, 18F. And it's been rough. I blocked her on everything, and I also had to block her best friend, who I will be calling Guy and using they-them pronouns on, because they share a lot of stuff together. PFPs, characters, posting about each other on their stories quite frequently, etc. My relationship with Clara was fun, but also full of issues due to our own personal problems. I'm a very insecure person and grew way too attached to her. Meanwhile, Clara has a lot of issues with the way she feels about people, especially romantic partners. Clara knew I was jealous of Guy. She once asked me directly, "Are you jealous of them?" I told her that of course I was jealous, and she answered with, "Well, fuck you, you gotta deal with that." And something among the lines that she was not going to change the way she acted with Guy. I never once interfered on their relationship, nor was planning to. These were some instances that cemented my jealousy. Clara once joked about how Guy was my competition. Later that day, I told her I did not like those kind of comments, even if they were jokes. She respected that and did not tell me anything like that again. One day she was having problems with Guy. She sent me a screenshot of their conversation, in which she was talking to them really sweet and tenderly, even using pet names like honey, babe, sweetheart, etc. I remember still how I felt. I tried to tell her, I wish she talked to me like that, but I either didn't make myself clear or she dismissed it. She did mention she did not talk to anyone else like that. Guy was the only. Guy made a playlist about them that brought Clara to tears. She tweeted about how much she loved them and how she couldn't even put that love in words. She didn't really care about the one I made her. Everything that Guy made for her made her so happy. She also messaged Guy way more and told them more stuff. I understand someone being closer to a best friend they've known for years than a partner they've met a few months ago, but I can't help but to feel hurt. I wish I had this much of a special connection with her, or that she loved me as half as she loved them. But it was clear from the start she was never sure with me, which makes me really angry because Clara was the one to ask me out. AITA for calling my sister a bitch after she was an ungrateful house guest. My sister, 30F, asked to come visit me, 28F, in California. I told her I wasn't up for it, have been severely depressed for a year. But she was insistent, so I told her she could come and figured I'd just provide her a free hotel, so she could go do things. I deep cleaned my whole house before she came, but as soon as she walked in, she complained that my house wasn't clean enough. I spent the next several hours, next day, cleaning it more. She bitched about the way I was cleaning. Before she came, she asked if I had shampoo, conditioner, and straightener, and I said yes. Once here, she complained that I didn't have Hemp's brand lotion and matching shampoo and conditioner. She asked for my straightener, which I misplaced. And while I looked for it, she said, "I'm gonna be pissed if you don't have it, because you told me you had all these things." I wasn't feeling up for walking around, not like she likes my company anyways. So I offered to drive her anywhere she wanted and pick her up. I drove her to a tourist attraction every single day. Every morning, she yelled at me for not getting ready quickly enough and then constantly backseat drove. Anytime anything went wrong, hit traffic, couldn't find parking, it was always, "If we had left earlier, this wouldn't have happened." I took her to a bookstore and had to leave to move my car. BC, my parking expired, and she called me while I was moving it saying she was ready to leave and complaining about making her wait and that I should have just left it and gotten a ticket. We later went to a museum and she was waiting while I parked my car, and once I got to the museum, she bitched about how slow I was being, literally 5 minutes. And when I snapped at her for being impatient, she went in the museum without me, then complained that she didn't have anyone to take pics of her inside. She complained about the food at every restaurant we went to. She did not offer gas money or say please or thank you once. I kept my cool for 5 days and just let her berate me to keep the peace. Until on the last day we went to Venice, and she asked me to snap a photo of her. I did, and she told me I was a bad photo taker. I'd offered to take photos of her at multiple different places, and each time she complained about the angle of the photo, etc. As we were walking, I saw a cool tree and went to take a pic. I shouted at her to smile since she was in it, but she ignored me, so I snapped a candid. When we got home, I sent her the photo, and she was annoyed I didn't tell her I was taking the photo. I told her I tried, and she said she didn't hear me and said I shouldn't have sent her the pic BC. Now she was pissed, and how she didn't have any pics in LA. I ignored her. Then about 5 minutes later, she started bitching again about how I should have told her, and I shouted at her that it wasn't my fault she didn't hear me. She snapped back, "Why are you yelling?" And I yelled, "Because you're being a bitch. Have some self-awareness." She replied something I don't remember, and I just shouted, "IDFC, shut up." She recorded me yelling and sent it to my mom saying I was crazy and lazy, and that she was the one keeping her cool, and that she never wanted to come back. I apologized and offered to take pics outside for her, which she accepted but also bitched about. Am I the asshole for abandoning my close cousin when she had a baby? My 23F cousin, 21F, and I have known each other since we were kids, but only started getting closer in high school. The women in our family would normally get married very young to unsupportive and controlling men, start having kids, and either drop out of college or never go in the first place. And neither of us wanted that. After high school, I got a full scholarship to study abroad, and my cousin got into online university and had a part-time job, but didn't leave our town. When we were 19 and 20, she was proposed to by a man who was very similar to the men we hated growing up. I tried to plead with her and talk her out of it, but she was adamant on getting married, so I stopped trying to get involved. She got married quickly and left her job. Every time I visit home and we go out, she demands I pay for her drinks, which I did a couple times, but when I told her I'm not paying this time, she asked where the money I got from my scholarship went and said it's not her problem, that I'm trying to save up for stupid things. She also keeps ranting about her abusive husband. Every time we go out and gets furious whenever I bring up the possibility of separation. I stopped going out with her or listening to her problems, as I don't sympathize since she chose this herself and refuses to get herself out of it. She got pregnant soon after and gave birth recently. Now that the baby's a few months old, she wants me to babysit so she can have some rest, which I refused to do on multiple occasions. We got into a fight recently, and she accused me of changing and becoming selfish since I left town. To be clear, I'm doing fairly well. I'm financially independent and have enough money to spare every time her and I go out. But I refuse to pay out of principle after seeing how entitled she felt to the money I make from my job and the scholarship I worked hard to get. I also have time to come and babysit, but don't think it's my responsibility to do so, as I come home on vacations to visit and take the edge off, not spend my day taking care of a crying baby. If she didn't want to leave her job and have a kid this early, she shouldn't have gotten married this young. P.S. She wasn't forced to get married, she was pressured and guilt-trapped, but so have I with my family on multiple occasions. I understand not everyone reacts the same way to the same situations, but I feel like I made it out and deserve to stay out and enjoy the life I built.